Coming up on the Together for Good podcast, this is a fun one. I hopped on a Teams call with my dad, the Reverend David Warren Preisinger. He retired about 6 years ago. He's been going through all sorts of different health things lately as well, but he's doing really good, and we just have a fun conversation. And I didn't give him a lot of details to start off. So where we begin is with a discussion about his experience in seminary. He was part of a seminary walkout at the Lutheran Seminary in St. Louis, and this group called Seminex, the Seminary in Exile. It's some really cool church history, U.S. history, but we also talk about how that experience formed him as a leader in the church, and then some really good discussion about, why does church matter? Why do we keep showing up? It's great. He's a lot of fun. He's a storyteller, and I'm just excited to be able to share this with you. Here we go. Welcome to the Together for Good podcast, a podcast created by Bethany Lutheran Church in Cherry Hills Village, Colorado, and hosted by me, Pastor Nate Preisinger. On Together for Good, our goal is to provide practical, engaging content that supports you without expectations. Whether you're feeling disconnected from traditional religion or simply exploring what faith means in your life, we're here to walk alongside you. No matter where you are on your journey of faith, we're glad you're here. Welcome to Together for Good. All right. Well, here I am on a Zoom call with the one and only David Warren Preisinger. Hi, Dad. How are you?
Hi, son. I'm great. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. You lost in the mountains there. Favorite spot is the mountains, which is why I keep telling you to come out to Denver, but you refuse.
They have mountains out here, not as high, I agree.
Yeah, so you're coming to us from your apartment in, is it in Rexford, New York?
That is correct.
That's what I thought. Outside of Albany, near where I grew up, where you've lived for, 35 years now? Jeez.
33 anyway.
33, yeah, 1993. But I'm bringing you back on the podcast because it's been way too long. We haven't talked, I think it's been 3 years that we haven't done a podcast, but you were a favorite guest with our discussions about time and the liturgical seasons. And we're not going to talk about any of that today because that's well documented and recorded. But what I want to know, you give the listeners a little understanding of your career in ministry, because you're a pastor. One of the crosses that I wear every morning when I lead worship on Sundays is my dad's cross, which is pretty cool that I get to carry, some of the lineage with me. But yeah, let people know just about where you kind of served and different things you did in ministry. Let's start with that.
Well, first off, I'm a Seminex grad, which tempted me, and it was hard to get calls. Most of my classmates waited a couple years, but I got one right out of school in Syracuse, and a quote liberal LCA at that time.
Okay, so let's stop on that, because I bet a lot of people don't know the Seminex story, and that's actually super interesting. So you were at the seminary in St. Louis, which was a Missouri Synod seminary, and then a bunch of stuff happened. I'll let you tell the story because you lived it. I just get to hear it all the time from you.
I got to keep it short.
Yeah.
There was a big discussion about biblical literacy, and the Missouri Synod was coming down hard on saying we had to take the Bible literally all the way through. And there was some question of that, and the president of the seminary was accused of pushing the more progressive view of theology, using the historical critical method. And the powers that be, at that time was Jacob Preuss, said you can't do that. You got to accept that Jonah was really swallowed by the whale. You got to go to 7-day creation, all that. And they were threatening various ways to fix that. And one of them was to fire the president
of the seminary.
Mm-hmm. And they were prepared to do that just before Christmas, my first year there. And they had to call it off because a key professor died, and he had his funeral, and then it was Christmas break.
Wow.
Which I would say the Spirit was involved in that, because if they would have met and fired the president that day, nothing would have happened. He would have been gone, and the school would have continued.
Oh my gosh.
I think.
Yeah.
So then when we came back in January, I remember in the morning of the day, I was going to go with a bunch of guys to do a protest skit in the dining hall about all the stuff that's going on.
A protest skit
Yeah.
about like the administration.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
It
that's
was-
pretty bold.
This was Vietnam time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, mid 70s, right?
Early 70s.
Early 70s. Okay.
So anyway, the first Monday after we got back, the board met, and sure enough, they fired the president. They removed him.
Mm-hmm.
To which the students, at least 600 of the 800 or whatever it was, said, all right, well, we're not going to class. If the professors are teaching false doctrine, we're not going to class until you tell us who it is and what the doctrine is that they're teaching.
Oh, yeah. Because all you knew as students, it's not like the students loved the president a lot, but you were just like, hey, give us some communication about what's going on. And you're accusing false doctrine, but we don't know like which class that you're talking about. You didn't know any of the intricate details of it. Is that fair?
Not all. Well, we knew what historical critical method was, and
Sure.
stuff like that, and had a lot of respect for the president. But anyway, most of the students walked off, and the next day, 45 of the 50 faculty said the students are right. We're not going to teach till you tell us what's going on here.
Wow.
So then we met every morning for hours in the gym, talking about what to do and how we going to go forward and what was coming next.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know what all went on, but we weren't going to class, and went for about a month. Yeah, it was about a month, and we had to move out of I was in a dorm. We had to move out because we weren't going to school there anymore.
Oh my gosh.
So we had to find a place to live. And pretty soon they had fired the faculty, and they had to move out too. So students were helping faculty move to places where we go. We found an apartment in an interesting neighborhood in St. Louis.
There's a euphemism.
It was a good, it was a neat old row house. We were on the third floor, and
Okay.
was room for four, and the landlord was Mr. Valentine. And we moved in on Valentine's Day.
Oh my gosh.
And he let us have anything we spent on paint or anything to fix the apartment up, he deducted from our rent.
Oh wow. Okay.
And our rent was only $100 a month as it was.
But you guys
There
were
four of us.
poor students, so it's not like you had much
Oh, we
more
had
than
a
that.
lot of money.
Yeah.
Anyway, that whole thing blew up, and eventually we did do some TV commercial kind of thing, walking off campus.
Wow.
For me, that was one of my my aha moments where I knew God was working.
Yeah.
'Cause I remember walking off campus and thinking, well, I may not ever get to be a pastor, which is what I wanted to do since I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
But I all of a sudden realized, so what? God's in control of this, and he'll take care of me. I don't know what it'll be. I might end up waiting tables for the rest of my life, but
Yeah.
I need to do this.
Wow.
Obviously, it didn't stay that way, but eventually a bunch of churches and other groups joined us, and they formed the AELC. Your grandfather was very mover and shaker in that group.
So yeah, I wanted to ask about this because yeah, your dad, my grandfather, was also a Lutheran pastor. He was a Missouri Synod Lutheran pastor at the time you entered seminary, correct?
Yeah, so was I.
You were a Missouri Synod seminarian. But then what was his reaction to all of this? You guys must have had lots of conversations, and it sounds like he was encouraging, and because I'm sure in some families this split people apart, where it's like, oh, the kid goes off to seminary, and now they're the yeah. Go ahead.
I had classmates that were disowned by their
I bet.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, mom and dad grandma and grandma were very supportive.
Yeah.
And I once asked grandpa, I said, what would you have done if I was on the other side? Because grandpa was very much leaning the progressive side.
He always was. Yes.
So he says, I would have supported you, whatever you did, but
Yeah.
you didn't go there. So we went from there. But
So-
anyway, the AELC formed.
And so he left Missouri Synod pretty shortly around the same time to join the AELC.
He was among the earlier ones that moved. He gave it to the congregation, and they says, well, why don't we be both? So the congregation he served was both Missouri and AELC.
Wow.
Tell somebody. And they were that way, and they called Missouri pastors, and they called other ELCA pastors through the years. Until about 5 years ago, Missouri finally came in and said, you got to decide, are you going to be with us or not? And they said, fine, get lost. And that was the end of it.
What church was that? Which one? What city was he in? Is that the D.C.?
Washington, D.C.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Courthouses. So that's a little of the background. And then Seminex born, Seminary in Exile. The Roman Catholic College let us use their spaces and classrooms.
Oh my gosh.
We had some agreements already before that with, I think it was a Reformed seminary or college. So it was a really weird combination of education that year.
Yeah, no kidding. But it was also so educational in this real embodied sense too, of everything about knowing about the administration and what they're doing and standing up for what you believe in and walking off campus. Like that's its own formative experience, I think, in a lot of ways. And I often wonder what that did for your generation, like this small group of Lutheran pastors who are Seminex grads, but had that experience. Like, how does that form one differently for ministry? Do you have any thoughts about that? Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of my classmates are a year ahead or a year behind or whatever. Not behind, but all the ones that actually experienced the walk became bishops.
There's a lot of Seminex bishops. Mm-hmm.
Bishops. I was an assistant for the bishop, and were leaders wherever, where they went. They were known for that. And I still hear about some of them today from other people. Oh, you know Mandy Dewar? Yeah, he's a scholar. He plays the organ. He's a little too liturgical for me, but he's still, he's definitely.
Yeah, well, and I mean, a lot of Bethany members are going to watch this podcast as it goes out through our channels, and their former pastor, Ron Glusenkamp, I know was a classmate of yours at Seminex.
Yeah, he was.
Yep, and so he was the lead pastor here, and then he went on to do fundraising for the ELCA, their big campaign too. Like, so leadership in other realms as well.
Yeah, they were there.
What do you think it is?
So
what do you think it is about Seminex that developed that type of leadership ability? Like, what about the experience do you think caused that?
I think, one, you had to work as a community. We learned, I think that helped us you had a relationship, you had confidence that, one, God had your back, but you had other people around you that were thinking the same and willing to walk out on water and see what would happen. That's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Paying attention and learning to listen, because other people didn't listen to us.
Yeah.
I can't. I've wondered about that sometimes.
Yeah, it's such an. It's
we weren't afraid to be out in front if we had to be.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's such an interesting. And it has some historic significance, not just within the Lutheran Church, but within that era of U.S. history. I think I told you, I took a class in college about social policy, and we had to read a textbook, this social policy textbook, and there in the pages was discussion of the seminary walkout at St. Louis in 70 something when that happened, which I thought was really cool, because I'm like, oh my gosh, my dad was a part of that. And it was
being on national.
Yeah, go ahead.
We were on national TV. The news for a couple of days.
Yeah.
When the walkout first started.
I mean, it was a really significant moment of just, students speaking truth to power, this very large protest, and really kind of the undoing of a very large institution. I mean, relatively speaking, as an educational institution, like you said, what was it, like 600 of the 800 students?
There were 85 that stayed back, and I don't know, some were on internship.
Wow.
So I think there were 600 minus 85.
And so
Anyway, there were big numbers.
big numbers,
They
exactly.
they only had 2 seminaries, unlike the ELCA.
So was it your first year of school?
Yeah,
Yeah.
first year at seminary.
First year in seminary. So your first year is this weird educational experience. And then was your second year a bit more formal at that Catholic seminary with kind of the exiled professors and fellow students?
There was more regular classes.
What I just don't
But
understand.
we were still, I mean, helping professors move,
Yeah.
finding housing and all that rigmarole. And what did you do? You know, you're halfway through this. What do I do about my internship?
Yeah.
I don't have a body that does it. What do I do about a call? Who are we? And so the group that first formed was called ELAM, Evangelical Lutherans in Mission. And there were 200 congregations across the country that formed the American Evangelical with AELC.
Okay.
But they formed with the sole intention of going out of business.
Oh, interesting.
Because of them, early in the 80s, the joint Lutheran, they joined the other 2 Lutheran groups.
Yeah.
Agreed to form a new church body that would combine all 3 into one. So in 1982, there was a resolution that came out that we're going to form ELCA, and then officially formed on January 1st, 1988.
1988. Yep.
And I remember because that was the day we moved into the house or whatever it was that we lived in Utica.
Oh, no way. Yeah, because that was after your first call. So backing up though a little bit, just in thinking about your seminary experience, like that is such an interesting. Having worked at a seminary, it's such a complex structure, right? Like any educational institution has financial aid and the registrar and all these little pieces.
And more stuff that you never know.
Exactly. Yeah. And so for you all to walk off and then be like, oh, like we'll figure it out, like it's a lot more than just needing students and professors, like you're kind of alluding to, especially in this process of like, hey, I want to be ordained as a pastor in this church, but will any structures or denominations recognize this experience that I'm going through or help me get the pieces that I need historically for that type of approval to happen, right?
Interestingly to me, I don't know where God's directing me, but mine was in a nursing home, which I've looked back and said, I delivered papers in a nursing home. I did field work in a nursing home. Here I am, my first call. Chris and I were 27. We lowered the average age of the congregation to 65.
And your congregation in Utica was near a nursing home, at least for a time.
It was right next door.
Yeah, I remember that. Well, yeah, let's get back to your history. This has been great, though. Like, I didn't even think to ask you about the Seminex thing, but I'm glad that came up because it is such a fascinating period in the church's history. So like you were saying, as you started out, because you were in Seminex, that made getting a call a very interesting thing. Trying to find a first call was tricky.
Difficult for certain. My roommate for 3 of the 5 years, 4 of the 5 years in college and at seminary, he didn't have a call even after I got mine, and he graduated the year before me. He eventually had to colloquize and go back to Missouri in order to get a call. But he had a lot of trouble from his colleagues in the area because, and I still get emails from him on a weekly basis. He's pretty progressive. And he just said, okay, I'll do this, but this is still what I believe.
Yeah.
Anyway, when I finished school, the Christmas before I graduated, I got a call from the upstate New York Synod assistant to Bishop Lee Miller, telling me he wanted me to consider a call to Buffalo. And I said, oh, wow, this is cool. I'm getting in feelers about this. He'd call me back. He called me back a couple of weeks later and said, we got one of our own LCA people. So, but do you mind if I keep you on the list?
Yeah.
I said, that's fine. I wanted an urban situation. I wanted even poverty, if that was what it was. And I think that's part of the reason I was able to get a call so quickly, because most people were avoiding that kind of situation.
Yeah, and where did that come from for you, Dad? I've always been curious about that because you've always had such a heart for the city. And I mean, is that also kind of how you grew up? Like, were your dad's congregations largely urban areas?
They were all urban areas.
That's what I thought.
Honolulu, Seattle. But I mean, when I was a sophomore in high school,
Yeah.
we had something called the Visit, where there were 12 of us, teenagers, Waltherlingers,
What's that?
Missouri Synod Youth.
Who is it named
Anyway.
after? Walther?
Yeah,
Okay.
Walther was a scholar in the Missouri Synod.
I've never heard that name before. Well, okay.
Well, if you're in the Missouri Synod, you will.
Would know. I'm showing my okay. Walther. I'll look this up. It sounds like Luther with a W at the beginning.
Anyway, yeah.
Yep.
We lived for 2 weeks in this house with all these 9 girls and 3 guys. The guys, we were all in the basement, or 2 guys.
Yeah.
And that's where my best friend from high school and college came from, was Walt Rice. But we did Vacation Bible School in the projects.
Oh, wow.
We had to go, and so I mean that.
And this is in Seattle?
Seattle,
Yeah.
Gave me a heart for the poverty and all that stuff. But I've always I don't know, I've always been that way.
Mm-hmm. No, you really have.
So I've got my urban call. I've been reading old journals, and I'm constantly worrying in the journals about, how do you proclaim Jesus to these people? How do you make it make more sense than just going through the motions? What are you going to do with this?
Yeah.
And I've been wrestling with that, continue to wrestle. I have some theories now that I'm not doing it anymore. But
well, let's hear
anyway.
it. No, I think it's such an interesting question, because what lives at the heart of that question too, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you kind of understanding contextually the people that you're serving. And so in these urban spaces, and all of your calls, right? Like your first call was in Syracuse, but in North Syracuse, and in a really a very West Syracuse.
Syracuse.
Yeah.
In the center of Syracuse, the police called it the land of dim.
No way. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and I know that was, from what you've said, a rougher neighborhood and area. And then your next call was in Utica, which it seemed, my memories of where that church was, because I can remember that congregation, not like that was still very urban, and Utica's its own like rough area, just kind of in general, but it was a nicer part of town, right?
It was middle class.
Yeah. But still definitely urban and rooted in the city. And then
and I made sure we did things like crop walk and those kinds of
yeah, crop walk was huge there. That's right, that hunger walk. But then and then you do assistant to the bishop for 25 years. So you're kind of just overseeing lots of churches. And then your last call was in Albany. And again, that was a poorer neighborhood, I would say. Is that fair? Yeah.
That's fair.
So, but go back to your question. How do you proclaim Jesus in these situations? Because the way I'm hearing that question is that you're kind of thinking about the hierarchy of needs, right? Like, and so you've got a lot of people who just need to get food to get through the day more than anything else. And so how do you proclaim a ethereal promise?
That was easier than others, but
okay.
My couple of my theories. One, the church I'm at now with Darren Melville, he keeps having new members classes. I mean, every month we get a new members class, and there's 4 or 5 new people that come in. That's phenomenal, I think.
Yeah.
And I think, okay, what does he do? He's very outgoing, so he connects with people right away when they come in. He remembers names. And that was also one of my things. I tried to learn everybody's name within a month. And the other thing he does in the new members class, I've never been in one, but my observation is he has each one get signed up to be in a group somewhere, and they're active right away.
Yeah.
So they're not just showing up on Sunday morning. Next week they're playing the guitar, or they're on the black and blue crew or something like that. And pretty soon they're very integrated in the congregation and they're bringing their friends. And it's
Yeah.
kind of one way. Okay, so that's building relationships. And in terms of the city where I said it was easier, you can show, I mean, the church has a reputation in some places of just being a place that just wants you to come and be there on Sunday and collect your offerings. And that's the extent of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they go through the motions a lot. I mean, yeah, not to be critical, I don't know if they really are, but it sure feels like it. A lot of people are just there out of habit.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, the thing I always say too, God can work through that too, right? I think there's seasons where it's just habit. And you know what, actually, I've been thinking about Pentecost and how long it is, right? The season of Pentecost is 27 weeks. And I think that's intentional because it's like, yeah, you need to just get bored with this for a while. This is part of the journey of faith. It's like there's going to be a season of boredom or it just feels like you're going through the motions. But let's prepare for that.
That's why it's
practice. Yeah, green and growing. That's right.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But answer your question. Answer your question. I'm going to press you on it. How do you proclaim Jesus in these situations? Right? Like, talk to us more about what was at the heart of why you were asking that in your journals, and then what your theories are about how that gets done.
Well, part of the reason I was asking it, because when I was on Synod staff, my job was mission director or helping to develop congregations, but also to be the terminator and close congregations. My first 6 years on staff, I closed a congregation a year, and I was like, this is no fun. This is not what I want to do, but
yeah,
you have to. Because when congregations are down to 6 people and they're trying to figure out how they're going to pay for things, you need to go in and say, look at reality, folks. We need to put you somewhere else, but this is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, but how do I proclaim Jesus? It's in our actions and in our both our spoken word, but our living word. In a poor neighborhood, we developed a bunch of programs in my first call that I look back now, I said, geez, we were doing a lot of pretty neat things there. And it was simply my goal was to show that the church cares were involved, that Jesus is part of what's going on. I had to get over a thing, though, my first 3 or 4 years, when I ever preached or stuff, I came out of something that was, what was it, the Jesus movement or whatever. Everybody would say Jesus all the time, and that didn't go down well with me. So even in my preaching, I never said Jesus. I always said Christ or something along that line.
Interesting.
Why am I so afraid to say Jesus? And finally, I just said, forget it. I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
Then it became a little more real. Obviously, caring about people and listening to them is part of helping people to know who Jesus is. As I look back at each of the congregations I've served, I've been told by people in many of them, they really appreciated my ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also people that are not afraid to say Jesus and do other kinds of things. So
yeah, I think
Spirit was working through me in ways that I didn't even know.
Yeah, what a great point. Is that's often, and it's not until you look back and you realize like, oh yeah, like we were doing all sorts of great stuff. And yeah, I mean, I remember you've told me some stories about St. Paul's in Syracuse when you were pastor there. And the neat thing, as one who's served in 2 inner city congregations myself, the neat thing about that type of ministry and experience is that those churches are often hubs in the neighborhood. And people know, right? Like most of your members come from the neighborhood and are nearby, and even the rest of the community kind of knows of the church because it's a landmark in the community. And so when things start happening there, you get people kind of coming in, right? Didn't you did like movie nights or something, and you sold popcorn for a nickel a bag, or I remember you telling me about all this, and it sounds just like something fun, but it creates such an interesting new way for the community to see and understand that space. And I think that's what a lot of what you were doing there. Go ahead. Yeah, it looks like you got something to say.
This is just a silly aside about the popcorn and the nickel. No, they didn't have to pay for it. They had to bring a piece of trash they picked up off the street.
That's right. I remember they had to bring in a piece of trash.
The mission was bringing trash.
Because it was, you know, a lot of those neighborhoods are just like not well cared for or kept. And so that's a way to like clean up the town. Wow.
The town, let them know that it worked. The other thing we did at Syracuse, there were the Baptist church and a Methodist church, the three of us. And we all had people coming in asking for food and money and whatever.
All the time.
End of the month, I always knew what I was going to be spending a lot of my time doing. But we decided finally, we realized that we were being double and triple dipped between the three congregations. Yep. So we got together. One of the churches was the clothing place, one of the churches was the food place, and the third one was the meeting place.
Wow.
And every week we had a meeting that they were required to go to at least once a month in order to get a bag of groceries.
That was the deal. Just to try and create that better connection and have it be less transactional. Is that kind of the idea? Yeah.
Oh, we did. I mean, at that time, the government was giving away cheese and macaroni and all kinds of stuff. And people get these 5-pound chunks of cheese and they say, what the heck am I supposed to do with this? So we made those Tuesday, or was it Tuesday? Whatever. Those classes, we'd have a demonstration on what you could do to make macaroni and cheese with the stuff you have here. But you can take it home now and you can cook it and do this yourself. And they only had to come one Tuesday a month, but most of the people came every week because that was their faith community. And we'd take turns, the three pastors, doing a little devotional at the beginning. So it just, to make sure it was it was like an opening prayer, but it was an opening.
Well, I've never asked you this question because I'm curious. It's a thing I think about a lot with ministry today, is that there are, it used to be that the church was kind of just the center of the neighborhood. And I always like to talk about my first congregation, Parkside in Buffalo, where it was originally built in this specific neighborhood because that was the outskirts of the city. And now it's very much within the heart of the city in Buffalo. But when it was built in 1924, people were just beginning to settle out there. And so in the basement of that church was a bowling alley because they had bowling nights all week, right? Like it was the community center, and there wasn't Netflix and there wasn't all sorts of other specialized entertainment out there. It was like, well, like, we go to church and we go to work and that's about all there is to do. But with that, here's where my question is really going. Now that church, like the church used to be the community hub and kind of had to be all things for all people, but everything is so specialized now. And so I think about us here at Bethany, we give a lot of money to an organization called Metro Caring that is doing awesome work in the city of Denver, and it is set up to do this type of care for people who are in need full time, right? Like they have social workers and they have finance coaches and they have a whole market where you can kind of do your own grocery shopping, but it's all food shelf type of things. So it has this whole human dignity element that's just incredible. So I'm curious though, like, what do you think the church's role is nowadays, given how specialized a lot of these ministries can be? Because I think it's like we would have to divert and change our whole operation here to even come close to doing the work that Metro Caring's doing. And so at a point, it's like, well, what would be more efficient is for us to just continue to give them large sums of money to continue doing their work, but that feels so disconnected from the ministry itself.
Does that place take volunteers?
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there probably are volunteers from Bethany that work there.
Absolutely. We have a lot of people who are really connected there. And
so that's part of it.
Yeah.
And I think recognizing what your role would be, but keep in mind, people power is equally valuable, if not more valuable than the money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we can do that. But what about the churches? It's lost the community development thing. And that's why I talked about relationships earlier. You need to develop relationships within the community. And in our world today, with all the phones and everything else, people are lonely. And so you figure out some way to bring connections. Book clubs are a huge thing in churches, partly because there's a connection there. Good Shepherd has a Black and Blue Thumb crew. They look for guys and gals, retired folks, look forward to Tuesday mornings because there'll be about 15 of us all doing different kinds of things around the church. And you feel good about helping the church. You feel good about, they go off campus too. They've put in a ramp for somebody who needed a wheelchair to their house.
Well, they helped you out a ton. Like, that was your community. You've always been pretty involved and connected, at least in recent history, with that group. And then when you needed to move out of the house into your apartment, they came and helped you move into your new place over in Rexford there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did twice, actually.
That's right, because I forgot about your other stay. Yeah.
So I'm guilty about that. But so, and in churches, you do kind of have to find your way. But I think you start with focusing on on relationships and ways to do things together. I mean, you still need the projects, but the important part is, even in the projects, what are some of the ways that the people can interact with each other? And
going back to what you were saying about Pastor Darren and what he's doing at your congregation today about connecting with new members immediately, learning their names immediately, and then finding a way for them to get plugged in and connected with a group immediately. Like, that's all relational ministry, what you're talking about.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
And what I love too is thinking about the theological angle of all of this, of how embedded that relationality is in what we believe and say about God, right? That God exists as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So God exists as a web of relationship, as a community in some ways. But then beyond that too, the whole story of the incarnation and how God chooses to become a human being so that we can relate with God in real ways and not just from a distance. Like, Richard Rohr has some sort of great quote about, like, God chose to become a human being because that's what you could fall in love with, right? Like, people can't fall in love with an idea, but they can fall in love with a person. There's some, I'm butchering it, but this is some piece to that puzzle.
I was going to say, well, and Richard Rohr's understanding of the Trinity is very relational.
Yes. Yeah, he's got the Divine Dance, that really good book about all this. Yeah, that's where I'm getting some of this from, for sure. You and I share a appreciation for his writing and work.
And your mother did too.
She loved Richard Rohr. Absolutely.
She did.
Talk to me about, though, why you think, like, so the relationality is so important for how we present ourselves. And do you think, why do you think people stop coming to church? You've probably seen a ton of that, right? You were the Terminator closing the congregation a year when you were assistant to the bishop. What is it about that's causing church to shrink?
Old and just can't get there anymore.
I know, right? But I'm just curious if you have any theories about all this. Like, what causes churches to shrink, but then in the same sense, what causes them to grow? I'm hearing relationality as a piece of the growth side of things, but yeah, what do you think it is that goes away from them?
Lack of relationships is also going to do that. You come in there, what do I hear for? I don't know anybody. I don't know. I'll put in my time and move out. And after a while, COVID happens and you make church on TV and you don't need to go anymore. I think sometimes you're not taught that either. I mean, you look at your sister Rachel, who doesn't want anything to do with the church, although she'll come when she's visiting me and go on a Sunday. But Magnolia's getting no background whatsoever. So she's not leaving the church, but she's never getting in. And that whole generation, there's a whole generation with that, where there's no connections.
Yeah, I think that's really true. Yeah, that there's a lot of, like, that's much more common today, is people are raised in a home with no religious connection whatsoever. And that presents its own interesting set of circumstances. You know, like, if you never know anything about it, how do you figure out? And you never really see a need for it or develop an appreciation for it. And in the same sense, being raised in the church can be far more destructive of finding all the reasons that you don't want anything to do with it anymore.
Well, yeah, when you're on Synod staff, Father used to tell me that. And shortly after the walkout and all that, there was some of the hierarchy of the new church were fighting among themselves about finances and stuff. And I said, Dad, I don't know if I want to be part of any church. All they do is fight and worry about money.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, you just need to remember that the church is a human institution and it's always going to be that way.
Yeah.
But you need to go forward with it and trust that God's working in it. Okay, Dad, I'll buy that. Your grandfather was a smart man.
He was very smart. He had some, he saw things well, I think, in a lot of ways. He and I you remember this, like we had a ongoing correspondence when I was in college. When I had theological questions, I'd turn to him for information, which was like just a fun way to be connected with him. But he knew his stuff.
You did a good job of that.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a neat part of my educational experience was having Grandpa to go to on all this stuff. I knew it could have come to you too, but it's just, when you're in college, you gotta.
No, Grandpa, and parents are different than grandparents. There's a different kind of openness that you can have with your grandparents.
So why are you still going to church?
I've wondered that sometimes.
Yeah.
I even, when I was in college, I went every week as I don't know where I went anymore. I know where I went when I was in junior college, but senior college, I don't know how I did it. I didn't know where the nearest church was, and I didn't have a car. But it just, for me, some of it is just habit, like I said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something inside that just said, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I need to do. Sometimes I'll get some out of it. Sometimes I'll get nothing out of it. But I go. And now I go partly because I see people there and they see me. I'm a known entity.
Yeah, the relational piece is really big. I mean, you've been connected with Good Shepherd there for 33 years, in and out. So
the 20 or so years I was Synod staff. I was there once a week, months or so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's regular church attendance nowadays, Dad.
I guess so.
So you're not even really sure, but it's like, it's the habit, it's the ritual. What do you think the ritual does for you, going every week like that?
I mean, that's why we have a liturgy. A liturgy is helpful. It's something that we know and we can count on in one sense.
There is just something, I don't know, like when I zoom out sometimes too, and we get lost in the shuffle, but I just think about what churches are trying to do every Sunday and like putting it in the best light. It's such an incredible thing that's trying to be offered to the world. And I know it doesn't get seen that way, but right, like we're trying to speak about the mysteries of the universe and the character of God and how this connects with our life each day. And I'm sure like this gets lost in all sorts of different things that we try to do as church. But you just think about the millions of churches out there every single Sunday that are trying to do this, and through music and choir anthems and liturgy and prayers and readings and sermons, like they're just trying to offer the world, because you never have to get charged or anything. Like you can just come on in. It's like, hey, we have this gift to give. And I mean, I think sometimes the gift that we're trying to give is just so enormous that we muddle it up, overcomplicating it, like overthinking like how to do this. And yet, go ahead.
We look for gimmicks.
Oh yeah, all the time.
I mean, and so,
we don't trust the message enough. Yeah, exactly. Like,
right.
no one actually really wants this. So let's have some fun with it. Like, yes, you can have fun. I always tell a self-deprecating joke in pretty much every sermon I give. That's just to get the congregation on my side. But, but yeah, like we try and dress up these deep mystical promises of the universe with gimmicks a lot of the time. And I think that does us more harm than good.
I agree.
Yeah, we just got to trust the gift that we have. I don't know. So, okay. I'm trying to think of where. This has been a great threaded conversation of kind of all over the place, but that's you and me, isn't it? Uh, any other insights for us, Dad, just about what church is trying to do and why it's meaningful for you, and what you think, why you think it might be meaningful for others?
I can't say what. Everybody has a different thing that will connect them with God. Church is meaningful to me. The relational thing is important because of the people that are there and the connections we can have. I haven't been to any of the Bible classes. I should go to them because I like to get some depth to it. The Bible class that they offer here, I go, it's pretty.
It doesn't have the depth you're looking for?
Not anywhere. And I periodically, every time I'll throw something in and I'll be challenging people a little bit. Don't forget that it's about forgiveness too.
Yeah.
The one that's got my right now, I'm going off the subject, sorry.
No, keep going.
They wanted a book what book they're going to study next.
Uh-huh.
And we ended up, I suggested Amos.
Uh-huh.
I said, this is a great book. It's one of my favorite.
They chose Revelation though, didn't they?
A lot of them wanted Revelation.
Everybody always wants a Revelation Bible study until they actually get into it.
And they interpreted all of. No, the leader read it and she said, it's too depressing. I don't want to do that. I don't want him to go out of the class feeling bad. I think I'm going to do Ephesians. So we did Ephesians.
Oh, gosh.
It's interesting too. We just finished.
Why do we do this? This afraid of this avoidant behavior all the time. It just speaks to me of a lack of faith. Yes, life is depressing and there are hard things that happen, and those are in the Bible too. And there's a bigger promise. That's always the message.
That's more than that with Amos. Amos has said, get rid of this stuff and get out there and take care of your neighbor.
Well, yeah, and Amos might end in a pretty depressing state overall, but it's not like that's the only book. And it's not like we just read Amos in isolation, right? It's always tethered to and the gospel. I don't know. I get so old and cranky about this nowadays, but it's true.
Amos has the gospel in it in terms of God's forgiving you. You need to get your acts together and let God work through you to help the other people around here. Anyway, she's a pastor's wife.
Yeah.
She's somebody I knew when I was 17.
Oh my, what a weird world. And she is in your community. She lives in the same senior living community.
Her husband died, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. But her husband and my dad were good buddies. He was in Vancouver, British Columbia, and Dad was in Seattle.
And now you're both in Rexford, New York. This makes no sense. That is wild.
It's weird. Dude, she thought I was just, wow, this is just strange.
Yeah, no kidding. What a small world. That's nuts.
So when we're introducing people to each other, she said, yeah, I knew him when he was 7. We've known each other for 60 years. I haven't really known her.
Well, and I was at the Rocky Mountain Synod Assembly here at Bethany 3 weeks ago now, and there were multiple people who came up to me who said, hey, are you Dave Preisinger's son? I'm like, oh gosh, I've been trying to avoid it. Yes. They found me. I thought if I left New York that they would never find me again, but they're everywhere.
So will they do that to Evelyn or Solomon someday?
Doubtful. I don't know. We'll find out. Dad, this is super fun. Thanks for coming on. Any closing thoughts? Give us an inspirational word moving forward.
Just remember that God is in the middle of it all, and that Jesus walks with us wherever we go. And we don't have to fight that. We can live with that and go boldly forth to seek and conquer new worlds. Is that Star Trek?
Okay, I'm glad you entered it on Star Trek. Oh gosh, that's the perfect way for you to end it. Yes, go forth and conquer Captain's Log. Star date May 11th, 2026. Dave Preisinger, thanks for being on the Together for Good podcast. We're bringing you back sometime, Dad. This was fun. Hey, and you, dear listener, thank you for listening. Stay in peace, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Together for Good podcast. If you'd like more resources for your walk of faith, please visit our website, bethany-denver.org, or download our mobile app by searching Bethany Connect in your phone's app store.